Today we're going to be talking about multiplying mixed numbers times a fraction. So when we multiply mixed numbers and fractions, we follow the same procedure as we follow when we multiply whole numbers. So for example, if I give you 12 times 13, we know to make an area model. So we break up the 12 into 10 and 2. We break up the 13 into 10 and 3, and we make our area model. On the top we can put 10 and 2. On the side we put 10 and 3. We know that 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times 3 is 30. And 3 times 2 is 6. And then we add up all of the numbers that are in our area model. In other terms, we use decomposition. So let's take a look at our first problem that's a mixed number times a fraction. So we are going to take the number 1 3/4 times 1/2. So when we break apart this number, we are going to look at it in two parts. If we break apart the 1 3/4, we're going to break up the whole number, and then we're going to take the fractional part of the number, which would be 3/4. And we're going to leave the 1/2 all by itself because there's only one part, the fractional part. When we make our area model or our decomposition model, it's going to look very similar to how we do whole numbers. On the top, I'm going to put the 1, and I'm going to put the 3/4. And then on the side, I'm going to put 1/2 because it's all by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is 1 times 1/2. And we know that that would be 1/2 because anything times 1 is always itself. And then I'm going to take 3/4 times 1/2. And we learned this week how to multiply fractions. So we're going to do 3 times 1 over 4 times 2, and that gives me an answer of 3/8. So I have 3/8 and I have 1/2. Just like when we multiply whole numbers, we're going to do the same thing when we multiply fractions. We're going to add those two numbers together. So we're going to have 1/2 plus 3/8. Now remember, we're adding now, so we need to have like denominators. So when I look at these two problems, I think to myself, what can I do? Well, I have an 8, and I can do 2 times 4 and 1 times 4. And that gives me 4/8 plus 3/8. And now my answer is 7/8. So 1 3/4 times 1/2 is 7/8. Let's try another one. So let's try 2 2/3 times 1/4. So we're going to break up our 2 2/3 into 2 2/3. And the 1/4 stays the same because there's only one part, and it's the fractional part. And there is no whole number attached to it. So now we have our decomposition model. On the top, I'm going to put 2 2/3. On the side, I'm going to put 1/4. So we do 2 times 1/4, which would give us 2/4. And then we do 2/3 times 1/4. And we know that that would be 2 times 1 over 3 times 4, which would give us 2/12. And now we add those two numbers together. So we have 2/4 plus 2/12, but we can't add those because there's unlike denominators. So I'm going to change this 4 into a 12. So I'm going to do 4 times 3, 2 times 3, and that's going to give me 6/12 plus 2/12, which gives me 8/12. Now 8/12 is a great number, but I am able to reduce it. So I'm able to reduce this to 4/6 by dividing by 2. But I can also divide by 2 again. If I divide by 2 again, I get 2/3. So all of those answers are equivalent to each other. So the answer to 2/3 or 2 2/3 times 1/4 is 2/3. Now make sure you try this on your own and make sure to use your decomposition model when you're solving your problems today. If you get stuck, come back to the video.